Accolade, eh?
Yes, we were saying before, how could the makers of Bubsy get involved in the sports world? How did that happen?
Making a hockey game with our big sweaty boy on this cover. I like the ambition. Back in the day, developers would make games for all sorts of consoles, for all sorts of genres. Wouldn't necessarily think that the makers of Bubsy would make Brett Hull hockey,
No.
but here we are.
Well, it's like the whole thing with Square. I didn't know that they made Rad Racer.
No.
Right? Like Square, now they're known for like Final Fantasies, but they were just making anything back in the day, right?
Low key, Rad Racer, one of the better 8-bit racing games. Like, you know, quite clearly influenced by Outrun and in pole position, but you know. Dusty, we're playing Brett Hull Hockey 1995, year of our Lord 95.
We are
For the Super Nintendo.
I totally thought that this was for the Sega Genesis as well.
Yeah, apparently not. Apparently Accolade
They couldn't cut it on the blast processing.
They're in the pockets of big Nintendo, so you know how it is. Do you have a preference for a hockey team you want to play as?
Give me Detroit. I don't like that you can't really see the stats on this, eh?
No, but I think we'll find out. It loads it when afterwards. So let's go through that. No.
Yeah.
We have a fake Ron Barr. Not exactly Ron Barr caliber, I will say.
It's nice that they did get. It's nice that you can kind of start to see, like, as you know, for the Super Nintendo, they were trying to make it as real as possible.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about Blades of Steel and how they're starting to present the game, and you know, here we have.
You see the evolution, right?
Okay, apparently I'm Detroit. Is that all right with you?
I'm fine with that. I know you. You know, you're a Dallas.
I'm a
boy.
Dallas boy, but. Okay, let's see. What am I doing here?
Is this what we call Mode 7? Is this like Mode 7?
It is.
I think it's Mode 7.
Yeah,
you can kind of tell.
Mode 7 being a Nintendo processing chip for scaling graphics. So yeah, I think this is Mode 7. I mean, hockey games like Stanley Cup for the Super Nintendo.
That's right.
Use this mode to great effect. I don't know.
You can tell, like if you look at the sides and how it's just interpreting the lines, you can really kind of see how it's keeping the crowd in place. Looks good. Looks good.
I like the way this looks. I you know, Ooh, I thought that was a goal. It's a surprisingly effective looking hockey game. I like the fact that the players have some momentum when they when they skate. Like you can't stop on a dime.
I was gonna say, and it's interesting that it's like this is 95, and then a year later, PlayStation. No, dude, PlayStation dropped in 95.
Yeah, I think so.
PlayStation dropped in 95, so I don't know. You can this view, this sort of way that it looks. It is. I know I said before, like.
Oh my god, I have a player stuck. Oh.
Street hockey.
No.
You're stuck in what though?
No, I had a player stuck behind the goalie and couldn't get out.
No, I was saying before, like Street Hockey is a game, and Street Hockey 95 is a game that desperately wanted to be a PlayStation game, whereas this is using
using all the technology.
It's using all the technology it had to say, like, hey guys, what comes next? You're in for a treat, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like I feel like something like this, even though it doesn't look as good as 94.
No,
it's pushing what they could do.
Do you think if you're a developer, obviously if you're a developer of Street Hockey 95, you've considered really your choices in life. But do you think like if you're the developer from Accolade and you know big boss comes up to you and says, hey listen, we're gonna take you off Bubsy. You need to make
put you on a hockey game.
We're gonna put you on a hockey game. Do you think, oh, here's Brett Hull, not at all playing, but just as a reminder, this is Brett Hull Hockey 95.
Yeah.
A significantly less sweaty boy in this one, but
it looks like they took a still from an interview from like a
press day.
Just photoshopped it out and pixelated it.
But do you think if you're making Brett Hull Hockey 95 and then you've looked at what the geniuses at EA who made NHL 94, you're like, oh god, don't make me do this.
Well, I think
Don't make me do this shit.
so. I mean, you look at this game and then you look at the EA games, and it's like they look significantly different. So whatever they were doing back in the day, they're like, listen, we got to do something different. We can't make it just like NHL 93 or 94,
Oh no, absolutely
right?
not.
So this is kind of a good solution, but it's also you can already tell like it would have been a tricky game to make, man. Just with this whole like trying to make it 3D, and it just really sucks though too that the billboard is utilizing so much of the screen.
Well, you know that
It's taken up a lot, man.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's like
It's cheating
well,
for-
yeah. It's like it's trying to keep the frame rate up from being an absolute disaster. This is running surprisingly smooth, and I don't know if that's has to do with
We changed the settings
we
on the
changed
telly.
Yeah, well, no, just in terms of the emulation, you know, like whether or not the power of the Raspberry Pi is able to make the game perform a lot better than it would have on a legit SNES hardware, but I doubt it.
I'd be curious to see how this actually.
What a goal!
Can I check your players? I'd be curious to see how this actually plays on like a.
Oh, and look, and you can check
Yeah, you
after
can
the
still
whistle.
check. I
Ideal.
love it. No blades of steel.
But you know I mean, Dusty, this is like back in the day. You'd play the hockey game. You didn't know that NHL '94 was the hockey game that doesn't have.
No.
So if you got this at your Blockbuster, your Rogers Video, your Jumbo Video, oh for God's sake, I think you'd be happy with this, right?
It's the name. Like you got to think about it this way. As crazy as this sounds, it's like having that legitimacy of like a Brett Hall or a Wayne Gretzky. Like, dude, even though like Wayne Gretzky 3D Hockey Blast for the N64 was not it was okay. Like it was still not better than like the stuff that EA was putting out at that time. But I just remember all my friends who had an N64, they're just like, Wayne Gretzky 3D Hockey Blast. They couldn't shut up about it. And I was just like, it's because of the name.
Yeah. I mean, it was a fun game. The Nagano Olympics version of it as well, right?
Yeah.
I love the goalie animation, just sliding across, old school double pad stack, glove in the air.
So I don't know, maybe the name, the Brett Hall, kind of helped this, because I do remember, like, I had a friend recently, because he was asking about the channel, and he knows that we're doing, like, the hockey stuff, and he was like, are you guys going to play Brett Hall?
Really?
Yeah. So
we have a closet Brett Hall fanboy.
Well, it was just like, so
they do exist.
This was a game, though, that was like, it was on people's radar, or they played it because of like what we're seeing of the 3D like presentation of this all, right? And this is kind of how games ended up. Like the hockey games, this is how they ended up afterwards, dude.
Well, sure. I mean, a modern hockey game probably has a slightly higher, more severe angle, so you can see more of the ice. But you know, it's not. Looks like a modern hockey game if you sort of squint your eyes and had a bit of a buzz going. Like it's there. It's there. It's within the realm of being. You know.
I had neighbors, and they had
the pad stack is great.
They had a massive telly. It was like the projection.
Oh, the rear projection.
Yeah, it was the
Love
big. It was the big ass projection one, and I think back and I'm always like, this is a game that would have looked amazing on it. Though.
Oh yeah. So I mean, you and I, again, we were not shy about talking about the fact that we play most of our games on emulation, just the convenience factor of it all, the ability to try new games out. Would you say you're done collecting games? Would you? I guess my question is, like, if you enjoyed a game like Brett Hall 95 like this, would you go out and seek it out? No.
I would only get it if it was complete in box. I walked by a booth at a flea market or a fan expo.
Yeah.
If I saw it for $30, maybe 40 if it was in good condition. The thing is, though, how many people do you know are collecting like sports games in a way that people collect, like, like a Secret of Mana, or
right?
And I don't know, maybe that's kind of a cool like thing to collect for, because it's so cheap, and if you really want to have a good gaming, like a sports gaming collection, that would be a good thing to do for complete in box stuff. But I don't think I would, man.
Well, I don't think that there's many people. Yeah, to your point, I don't think there's. Oh, nice goal. I don't think there's many people going around buying sports games unless
like NBA Jam or like, I don't know, niche like Looney Tunes basketball.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like I can see if it's a part of a bigger like franchise or whatever. But
it's, you know, it is one of those things where it's like a lot of people would play when they played these retro games. Well, when they weren't retro, they were just games. These are the types of games that probably would have sold more than your Final Fantasies, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a huge segment of the audience who must have some maybe feelings of nostalgia for this, and but they're not valued in the same way, right?
No, I think because I think with sports games, it's such, they put them out every year.
Right.
And I think this is like another reason why when you look at like the Call of Duty games, why they feel less important is because they're chugging them out, and now they're talking about potentially like not having them come out as much as often because it's just like it's too much. And with the sports games, it's like, you know, EA 90, like, dude, I got NHL 16 2016 for $5.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. It's because it's not that much different from the game that came out the year before or after, right?
Well, let's talk about that. So what games have you been picking up recently? What are you playing? Have you picked up anything recently that you think was really good? Good pickup?
So physical form, I just got Driver
for the
PlayStation.
But before we say that, there's no San Francisco, but would you like to play like a team?
How dare you? Can I pick?
Yeah, you could pick.
Let's do that. Ooh,
I didn't know there was.
Oh, yeah, team.
Do it.
Who's on the West? Who would have been on the West at this time?
The West would have been ironically would have been teams like Toronto, Detroit, Chicago. Yeah, we'll go.
Let's do that.
Are you ranked 80? Man, that's some.
Damn.
How was your defense only rated 67?
They're all shooters, man.
I suppose so. So you picked. So my defense on Dallas is single-handedly better than the entire Western Conference, which I'm pretty sure also included Dallas at this time. But so yeah, Driver, you are the wheelman for PlayStation 1. Yeah.
Driver, you are the wheelman, and
did you get? Was it the greatest hits or the?
I got the greatest hits, and then I got Panzer Dragoon.
Oh,
the remake for PlayStation 4.
For PlayStation 4. Nice. So, I have that digitally.
Oh my goodness.
Well, that was a gimme, I'm afraid, but that's a really good remaster. Now, do you have any experience with the originals, like the Sega Saturn ones?
No, the closest thing was a buddy of mine, because they had a version. They had an Xbox.
Yeah,
Panzer
Dragoon Orta.
Yeah, so I did see him. I was watching him play that, and yeah, I remember just thinking like, wow, like this looks cool. Like I would get an Xbox for this.
Yeah, and you did get an Xbox for that.
Like 10 years later.
Yeah,
so funny.
Eventually, yeah.
But wow, look at that wrist shot.
Good goal. I've been mostly filling in my gaps in my collection, such as it is, for PlayStation 3. You know, now's a good, you know.
We were saying
now's a good time to get to jump in on those on the PlayStation 3 titles, PlayStation 4 titles, because they're just not as well sought as rare and sought out as the other ones, as the older games. So now is the time that if you're looking to pick up JRPGs or fill out your collection, you know, you'd be hard pressed to find a better console to collect for than PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360s. And I wasn't buying anything rare. I just picked up, you know, Uncharted 1 and 3. You know, not as many people are looking for that now that there's, you know, 3 different consoles that game is on. You know, the Legacy of Thieves collection or whatever it's called.
I feel like everybody's like, dude, during Sony did the Days of Play thing.
Yeah.
I own all of the Uncharted games because of the lovely people at Sony sponsor us. Sony. They gave those games out, and you wanna know what? I think I mentioned this to you, and you're like, you need to play it. I still haven't played Uncharted 2.
Oh, you definitely need to play Uncharted 2.
Which is like, that was
it might be the best one.
Well, it was game of the year that year, man.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of the main line Uncharted games, not including like the Vita ones or the DLC that came out for the Uncharted 4. I would say Uncharted 2 is probably the best version of it. And its set pieces are brilliant, and yeah.
I just remember seeing the trailer and seeing that train go off the tracks.
It's an iconic.
And I was like, man, that just stuck with me for the longest time. But then after, I think, I did play the first Uncharted, and then I never got into it because I just thought I was kind of bummed out that Naughty Dog went that route.
Well, because you were a big fan of their platformers.
I was a big fan of Jak and Daxter, and then I was just kind of like, this just feels like... It just felt strange that Naughty Dog went in that direction.
Yeah.
Listen, I still know that the Uncharted games are phenomenal, but it's like, they've always been, with the Crash games, having, animal characters in platformers, or like weird things like Jak and Daxter.
Yeah.
I kind of missed that, so I don't know, man. I don't know if we'll ever get back to that.
I suppose that the best way to play it is... Oh, and look who scored. Brett Hull.
Love it.
Love it.
And Felix Potvin assisted that.
I know. Really dates the game, doesn't it? Just looking at the players. It's, probably the way to go to... If you never played the Uncharted games, probably the way to go about playing those games isn't to go and play the PS3 version now. But those are the versions I played, and there is this weird thing in the sort of retro gaming community where it's, if you play Rad Racer, you need to play the NES cart on an NES hardware using a CRT, but no one has any qualms about you playing Uncharted on the PlayStation 7 eventually when it comes out for yet another console, right?
Yeah.
A weird little retro specific.
That was my phone, guys.
That's fine. They won't hear it. But yeah, dude, I picked up a lot of weird games they're not weird games I played when they were new, and then sold them. Like, yeah, you know what? That might be a fun game to pick up. I bought Kane and Lynch 2. Is that a good game? Like, it's fine. It's fine.
It's a good game now because back then, like, I think we used to rip on a lot of games that should not have we should not have gone as hard on.
Sure.
I think because we were just spoiled because it's like, we had, like, think about it this way. When Squaresoft came out with the Bouncer,
yep.
A couple of my friends, they were like, this game sucks, blah, blah, blah. They brought it back. The game's fine, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally, there ain't nothing wrong with the Bouncer. It's just that it was like, what? Squaresoft's first kind of foray into the PS2, and it's like, they were expecting something else, but it's like, there's AAA titles, and then there's just decent things to pass the time.
Yeah, and
and Kane and Lynch was kind of like one of those things, right?
Yeah, I think people had particular expectations around Square that, when Rockstar came out with table tennis.
Well, that too. Like, listen, there's nothing wrong with Rockstar table tennis.
No.
It's just that it's not Grand Theft Auto, and it's like, it's still a good game though, guys. I don't know. In my opinion, I thought the graphics looked great, and
oh yeah.
So,
but our first review, of course, was a SquareSoft game.
Yeah.
That wasn't an RPG, so we're not. We're oh, come on, that would have been a goal, but we're quite comfortable here talking. Like, we actually quite like the games that are the weird offshoots of developers' main franchises.
Do we like bad games?
I kind of love bad games.
Well, in the same way that, people like bad movies, they are guilty pleasures. I think the difference between a bad movie and a bad game, it's like, bad movie, you sit there, it requires nothing of you, right?
Yeah.
But like a bad game, it's not a good time. You actually have to figure out the camera and do this and that with the controllers. So it's like, I can't remember the last bad game I played that I finished.
Well, we play loads of bad games, but
we play sevens and ups.
Yeah,
we play 6.5, 7 and up.
I think if there's any game that we pick for review, probably we're not going to pick games that we feel would be a waste of time to cover.
No,
I think that's generally true. Even
a bad game is an absolutely broken game. like where you cannot even go to the next stage. Like that,
Yeah.
those are games where I'm like, that is a bad game.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, we're spoiled in that sense. I mean, there are games like all the games that we've reviewed, even if we didn't love them, were
You can play them, you can pass them, right?
Things that have beginnings, middles, and ends.
Yes.
Whereas, but it's worth talking about those bad games too. They teach us a lot about what we don't like about games. It's also like we could go back right now and every version of Hat-Trix could be us playing NHL 94, 95. But how would you learn about the history of games that we all purport to like if you're not going to play some bad games every now and then?
Like a good example of bad games, dude. Look no further than Atari 2600.
Yeah.
Like those games, they're broken, they're clunky, like they're bad. I think when you had a team of like 4 people, 5 people working on them, sometimes one person, like you can't, like they're unbeatable. They're just, you cannot, like that whole era, like, the early beginnings of video games, there were a lot of bad games, right?
Yeah. Well, those games require much more, like a greater level of like contextualization to appreciate them, right? It's like, oh, E.T. is a bad game, but I understand given the circumstances of its release, right? I don't know. I will say Street Hockey 95 might be the worst game ever, but it's pretty bad.
I will tell you right now, in my opinion, the worst game I've ever played, and it's because it's broken, was the Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring for the Game Boy Advance.
Oh, right.
Black Label Games, they did that. It's unbeatable.
Right. Like physically, literally unbeatable.
It is unbeatable.
I don't want this moment to pass by. You did win a game.
That's phenomenal.
Where's the scoring summary?
Brett Hall is my guy.
Wayne Gretzky, Brett Hall, Wayne Gretzky. Oh, a hat trick from Wayne Gretzky. So, mark this moment in history.
That's wild. Well, I mean, but you won the first one. Also, my team was like the greatest team,
literal all-stars
in 1995.
Yeah.
So,
how do you feel about one more as a tiebreaker? Does that sound good to you?
I think that sounds great.
All right, I'm gonna go for
pick an all-star team.
I think I'll be all right.
I'm gonna pick an all-star team.
Sorry, hold on. I've already picked an all-star team. The Toronto Maple Leafs.
In 95, though, I think 93 was their year, man. That was their last year.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I could pick someone better, but
I'm gonna pick.
You're gonna pick the West again?
The best in the West.
All right, fair enough.
Good evening and welcome to Brett Hall Hockey.
What were we saying?
Not Ron Barr. He's still not Ron Barr. No matter how many times we start a game, he's still not Ron Barr.
And the thing is with this, he's talking like way too much.
Yeah.
Number 7, number 9.
Yeah, I mean, I will point out that there is
too much.
There's currently 2 Felix Potvins on the ice. Gretzky.
Oh, that's wild.
Gretzky is OP in this game. He scored a hat trick, comes back on the ice, roofs it on Felix Potvin. Toronto wins the draw. All right. I think that there is. I think also there's like a certain level of expectation that happens when you. Okay, let's put this in context. If I go to a retro game store and I spend $5 on Kane and Lynch 2, I kind of don't care, right? Like I know what I'm getting into. I played the game.
Look at you, Mr. Fancy
Mr.
Pants.
Moneybags.
All that money dropping $5 bills.
Big YouTube. No, but or put it another way, if Brett Hall Hockey wasn't the best game in the world, and you spent $70, $80 on this game, and you bought it brand new from Kmart, you would go ape shit.
A little bit.
You would go ape shit.
Yeah, of course you would.
Whereas now, this is like...
Now it's nothing. Now it's kind of like, it's just there. It exists as a part of like the history of this system, and...
My God.
Oh, man.
This might be your game.
I don't know. I think it's the controls.
Is it possible that you are a Brett Hall Hockey 95 savant?
You know what? I think I may buy this.
You might buy this
complete in box.
Complete in box. You're gonna get it. You're gonna get it graded and sealed by WADA.
But you know what? Like,
For a second, I wondered if it was Weta, but no, that's the
Weta
Lord of the Rings
Digital,
on my mind.
Lord of the Rings. Oh yeah. Well, no, dude. Like honestly, that that game is absolutely broken. The Lord of the Rings for Game Boy Advance. I played it once. There were things that happened in the game that didn't happen the second time. And
oh man,
there
why?
was I don't know
They
why.
just glitched out.
The codes inside the cartridge. I remember I played it and it stalled at one part, and then I played it a second time. There was dialogue in the game that I didn't see the first time around, and then I got a little further, and I had items that I had in my inventory, and they just disappeared.
Oh,
and I needed an item to pass, through a level, like through the Mines of Moria. Like I needed
Right.
something. I got it. Put it in my inventory. I went to like this forest. Elf is like, you need this to pass, and it disappeared.
Oh
And I was
my
like,
God.
that's it. I'm like, this game it was a perfect example. They were trying to rush it out to get it in time for the Two Towers release.
Oh, was it based on the book franchise too?
So EA owned the film rights.
Right.
Black Label Games, they owned the book rights from Tolkien,
from the Tolkien estate.
Tolkien Enterprises, yeah. So they based it off the books. I have the Fellowship of the Ring Black Label Games.
Yes.
The PS2. It's not that bad. I
Okay.
beat it. Not amazing, but I beat it. The Game Boy Advance version, it is atrocious. If you want to have nightmares, play it.
See, I do think that there's there's the influence of like nostalgia critic and retro game and angry video game nerd, and we know the bad games that came out for the NES, right? But that sounds like something else.
No,
like, it's
that
literally
is
unplayable.
That is actually that is a bad game, and there's justified reasons to be upset at it. But I mean, there's been things where it's like I've seen a couple retro gamers, and I think they're staying in character and they're talking about bad games that aren't even that bad.
No, I mean they're putting on a show, and that's
putting on a
great,
show.
and I love it, and I'll watch all of those videos again and again. But some games that you just can't play are a whole other thing, right?
Yeah, like that one's an example. There's another one out there that I have on my shelf that I can't remember, but
Well,
I don't know, dude. So I'll throw another one out there at you,
all right,
and I may get a little bit of flack for this,
all right.
but it is
Send
it's,
hate mail to PO Box.
PO Box, Beverly Hills 90210.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're doing,
Yep.
it is a frustrating experience. Boy and His Blob
Oh right.
for the NES.
Right.
I remember playing that as a kid, and I remember having a tough time. But I've seen online on YouTube, I've seen some long plays, and I've seen people beat it in about 45 minutes. And when you see what they're doing, you're like, oh man, how was anybody supposed to know?
Well, this is use the jelly bean on the thing, and then
The jelly beans. Listen, it's a clever device. It is
Yeah.
such a smart game. However, if you don't know what you're doing, like, how are you supposed to know that this flavor of jelly bean is going to turn you into a ladder? You don't,
yeah.
unless you have the manual beside you. But it's like, that's what also makes a bad game, is things like that, where it's like the designers expect you to know what you're supposed to do.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like this expectation on gamers sometimes is what makes for a bad game as well. So
Yeah, so it's not that the game itself is like broken in fundamental ways. It's like it's the design is obtuse enough that you just end up quitting before.
yeah, like the patience factor is a thing in games, and it's like if you keep punishing, the player, it's like, what's the point? So
Yeah.
which hence I think is why Boy and His Blob ended up getting a remake after for the Wii. And now you can get it anywhere digitally, but like it was one of those such a great idea that it deserved a second chance to be reintroduced to people,
Well, there is this sort of like game mentality amongst some gamers or like some developers where the game needs to be like absolutely handhold you through the entire thing, but then that's taken as a bad thing, like the rewind feature in a game like Prince of Persia, where it's used for narrative purposes, or like in racing games where it's not used for narrative purposes, just because you messed up. I think that I mean, if you're such a just you don't have to use it, right? Like that's so like a hint feature, like that was I think part of the Boy and His Blob remake, you know, that's great.
Yeah, and I think it's like,
It's one of the ways that retro games clearly are behind
yeah.
modern games, and including remakes like that.
Well, I mean, dude, the only solve for that back in the days, you'd have somebody's older brother in the neighborhood who just knew.
Yeah,
And I don't know if it's because, like,
you read it in a magazine.
yeah, they had a Nintendo Power or something, but it's like
The rich kid who bought the strategy guide.
Prima strategy guide.
Oh yeah.
It's like if I didn't know what was going on in a game, like that was it, man.
I swear that some of these shots look like they're going in the net, but they're actually not a goal.
This game it's a little bit broken.
It's a little bit broken,
It's a little
but
broken.
it's fun. I'll give it that.
Yeah, and I think what's happening is you can tell like the perspective is actually
Oh yeah, messing.
influencing the shots if
Yeah.
they go in or not, because if the net's bigger and then if it goes smaller.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the case, but it does look like they're going in for sure. Certainly it looks like the puck has gone in the net. But you're smoking me on this. I think this might be
It's the team, man.
No, I think
It's
I
the
think you
friggin'
have
team.
I think you have the power.
You got the power.
The
I think the way that this game operates, if the stats are better in your favor, the chances
sure.
of going in the net, the puck, I think it just improves.
I think Gretzky's way overpowered in this. I'm just gonna throw that out there now.
Like too powerful.
Too powerful. You know, though, just to go back to like the idea of like why it is that, you know, Boy and His Blob might annoy you, or like Kane and Lynch, I might have been up in arms when it first came out, but now it's, you know, whatever. It's like some of these video games have become like the equivalent of gum. You know what I mean? It's like if you asked me,
I'm following.
If you asked me for a stick of gum,
Sure.
right, and I had multiple sticks of gum, I would give you the stick of gum. I don't even think about it, right?
Okay.
Some of these retro games, when they're like $5, or even cheaper in the case of Brett Hall Hockey 95, again played on Recall Box on a RetroPie 4, it's equivalent of a stick of gum. It doesn't matter. It's not. It's effectively zero,
Yeah, I see what you mean.
right? So you're not putting that initial outlay of time and expectation into it, and maybe that's why like this, you know, even though Brett Hall is Hockey 95 is kind of not a good hockey game, I kind of like Brett Hall Hockey 95.
Yeah, it's not bad. You got to remember too, this was some kid out there had a chance to either have NHL 94 or Brett
this.
Hall. And they did. It's like meeting another person from an alternate universe where this was their hockey game.
Dusty, I got a surprise for you. I got you a hockey game.
Did you? You got
Yeah.
Brett Hall?
That's right, Brett Hall Hockey 95. Dusty, you've won.
It's as an IOU though, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, that's
it's like
what I
we got
thought.
you the new hockey game, the EA one. No, even better.
Even
The
better.
guy who's sweaty and plays for the St. Louis Blues.
Imagine the amount of Photoshop work that had to go into this frame.
Yeah.
Photoshop CS2 or whatever when the time came out.
Just to pixelate
Just
him
to
out.
pixelate it. But that was not that bad, dude. I mean, aside from, you know, the real estate of this of the billboard.
Ran smooth.
Yeah, if you're
didn't break.
If you're playing it on a big TV, this game is fine. But if you're playing it on those, like, you know, 12-inch CRTs,
Yeah.
it could have been annoying.
Could have been annoying.
But it works.
But mark this day in the calendar.
I freaking did it. This is amazing.
You won.
I'm so phased by it. I'm gonna be asleep in my bed tonight and be like, oh shit, I won. I freaking won. This is the first time.
And the last time.
And the last time.
Thanks, Dusty.
Until the next one.
Until the next one.